Hi, I'm Lisa Haisha. Welcome to the Legacy Series. Today we have a very special guest, Shellie Hunt. Shellie and I met at Women of Global Change. Well, actually we met in Cairo first, speaking at a big event down the Nile River, and we really connected. I connected to her message, who she was. Talk about a strong, powerful woman who I knew was doing amazing things in the world, and she was just getting started. And since then, she created Women of Global Change. And of course, I followed her and want to be a part of everything she does, because whatever she does, she doesn't do it for her. She has a voice and a vision to help shift the world, shift women globally. And she's a woman who receives a lot because she puts out so much energy into anything she does that the gifts just keep on coming for people all over the world, from, Africa, Costa Rica, Europe, wherever there's need. Shellie's there to help do whatever it takes to serve them. So I am so honored to have her here today on the Legacy Series. Welcome, Shellie.
Thank you, Lisa.
Hi.
Always
Amazing.
good to be with you.
I know,
Always.
I know. We have always connected, and we don't live in close proximity, somewhat closer now that you moved out here, but our lives are so busy, especially with me now moving to Europe.
I know. I'm going to have to come visit you now. I have an excuse.
Yes, of course. We got to do a Women of Global Change while I'm there.
Absolutely.
That would be amazing. But I wanted you here because I want to inspire people to, especially people who have, a lot of brains and a lot of guts and are leaders. Because there's a lot of people who have those abilities and attributes, but they just still don't have the motivation or think, oh, everyone else is doing that, especially with what's going on in the world today. People are now shutting down, saying, I just can't take it anymore. I can't hear another negative thing. And if we all do that, what's going to happen? We need our light workers, and you're a light worker. So how do you do it? How do you do it all? How do you travel to DC just now and work here and work there and create a business? You just bought a studio and you're raising your fabulous daughter, and all, at a certain level that most people only strive to. So how do you do it? How do you plan your day? How do you get inspired?
I think how I get inspired is every morning. Every morning I wake up and I think either I really feel rested or I feel tired. Either way, because you don't wake up every morning feeling like fantastic, ready to take on the world. But I lay in bed and I think about gratitude, and I think about all of the things that are in my life that I am grateful for. And that is how I start my day every day, whether it be my daughter, whether it be that my mother's still on the face of this planet, after cancer and everything we've gone through, whether it's that I have clean water, that I can have a cup of coffee, that there's food in my refrigerator. And so I count my blessings in the morning, and that is one of the first things that I do every morning, because I find when I go there, my attitude and how I come into the day is totally different.
So how would you advise others who don't have their life together as much as maybe someone who at least is getting a paycheck, who has a healthy family, or someone who's really struggling and lost it all right now?
There's always something to be grateful for. Always, always, always something to be grateful for. I have the sign in my house that says that. And I think that so many times we're almost trained to look at what's wrong and to dwell on what's wrong versus the things that are right. There are always going to be some things that are okay. Even if they're just okay, I'm grateful that they're okay. And I've ridden the roller coaster in my life before, where I've had things happen in my life that, you're just face first. You're down in the dirt and it's on your face, and you're just like, wow, there's really not a lot lower I can go. And then it's, well, what am I grateful for today? And so no matter what it is, count those things and think about those things. So I think that there's always something, and it is a practice. It's not something that just automatically happens, right? It is a
You'll
practice.
say, I'm grateful, and then more stuff happens in
Oh,
my
I know.
life.
And
It's like,
sometimes
no,
when
it's
it's
not.
really bad, I'll count the little things, and
Yeah.
I mean little things. I'm grateful for my electric toothbrush. And
Yes,
my,
yes,
my
yeah,
kids are
yeah.
like, what the heck, Mom? And I'm like, well, I am.
This is all I've got today.
This is, you know, so
and my cup of coffee or
no,
something.
yeah,
Like,
whatever it is, you know, I get grateful for it, and I think it's a great place to come from.
Yeah, I think it shifts your consciousness.
It does. It does shift your consciousness, and connection to source and connection to who we are opens doors. So that one thing that I know is the more connected I am to myself and to my source, you know, as you say, the light.
Yes.
Or whatever you want to call it, right? As we know, we travel the world. There's many names to this. I'm going to call it source just for the sake of it. But the more connected to source I am, the more that I'm on my path. Let's put it that way. That I'm walking my path. And so I know that whatever comes in, good or bad, is a lesson, is a gift. And I really look at this like this is a soul journey here. You know, so many times we're so busy going to what's the next goal, the next mission. Well, there's going to be a bazillion missions.
Yeah.
I finally came to that realization at some point as I kept going, I got this goal, now I got this goal, now I got this goal. And I was like, wait a minute here. There's a bigger plan than this. You know, and I think that us living in our purpose and living in our source, then even if something horrible happens, I could look at it and I go, is this an obstacle or is this an opportunity? How am I looking at this? And I use humor a lot.
Good, okay.
So when things are like really messed up, I'm like, alrighty now. You know, I do.
I'm being challenged.
I absolutely,
yes.
you know, and I try
and if
to.
you could get out of that, then what else can you accomplish?
Yes,
Absolutely.
and so not just acting because of a reaction, but actually stepping back and being able to observe the bigger picture.
Like if someone wants to achieve something, if they're not doing anything right now, or they have a goal, but I don't know how to reach that goal, or they've been trying for 2 or 3 years and I don't have the right context, I don't have the money, so they're struggling. They don't have a job, they have to work all day.
I don't think creating a business or creating success really depends, and I always say this, and people go, huh? Because this is a limiting paradigm, but I look at it in a different perspective, and I don't think it has to do with age. I don't think it has to do with how much money you have. I don't think it has to do with any of that, your sex, your height, your, you know, I really don't. I don't think it has to do with any of that. I really think that, you know, how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. One bite at a time. And that, first off, people don't dream big enough. So the first thing I always tell them is make the dream larger than life. You know, if it's going to be a widgets business, then make the dream the biggest widgets business in the world. This is the international supplier. If it's going to be an orphanage, then maybe it's an international organization, like in your mind, because that doesn't cost anything.
Okay.
That's just time for somebody to write it down and look at, this is my big vision, like big, like I'm afraid to tell people because people think I'm crazy, right? The bigger the better. And then backtrack that vision and go, okay, here's the vision. What would this international orphanage or feed the children organization, right, look like? Then backtrack it. So many people start at point A. I'm like, start at the end and start going backwards. What would it have? It would have 100 offices all over the world. And what would that need? That would need this policies and structures. What would that need? And start backtracking it all the way back. Because one of the things that you'll get is you'll get a clear perspective of what you need to do and what the next purpose is. So that's one of the things that I do.
So they'll know what to do, how they got that.
Absolutely.
So they vision, what did that take? Oh, I had to do these steps. Oh, to get there, I
And
needed.
then you have people that are doing a 9 to 5, and they go, well, how is that possible for me to do that doing a 9 to 5? Well, it might mean you wake up an hour early. It does take dedication. It might mean that on your Saturday, for 4 hours on your Saturday, that's what you do. And so it's eating that elephant one bite at a time.
Yes.
And knowing okay, so this 9 to 5 is holding me right now. It's putting food on the table. I always tell people, don't just walk away and be a lemming and jump off the edge of the cliff, and go, how am I going to feed myself tomorrow or my kids? That's not what we're talking about. But we are talking about a structured transition. And so many people, one, they see the vision as unattainable, so they back off. The other, and they see all the obstacles. The other type of people will go into trying to plow through things, which you can't see everything. If your nose is to the grindstone and all I'm doing is looking at the ABCs of the money, the ABCs of everything, I'm losing the vision. And so that's another place people go. And then another place they go is they'll get about 5 or 6 steps into it. I've met so many people that they write down what they want and they get the vision and they'll do like 5 steps towards it and then they stop. It's almost like because we're creatures of habit, we go back to habit versus us running our habits. And I think that follow through is huge, really huge. And going, about every 3 months, I look at how my life is running. I look at what's on my plate. Is it my daughter's going to college, which she is very soon? Is it I'm starting a new business? I just did with the studio. Is it that I have a new relationship and I need to make time, or whatever it is that's going on in my life right now, because we're like this ebb and flow, right, as things go on. And then I adjust my life accordingly. And I think that we don't do that enough. A lot of people don't check in with, what am I working on right now? Okay, so I'm doing this 9 to 5 and whatever, I got 3 kids and whatever my scenario is, and I want to transition to something else, then I've got to make the allotment for the transition and run it and stick with it.
Yeah, but how do they stick to it?
Well, I think one of the things that they can do is, and this is one of my things, is I put trigger devices all over my house. So I'm constantly drawn to what I'm working on, constantly drawn. I purposely get my calendar out and I actually write in my calendar how I want my life to start looking. How is my time going to start looking? So if I'm in a 9 to 5, maybe 6 to 7, I'm going to get up, I'm going to have my coffee. 7 to 8, I've decided that I'm going to start working out because I haven't been. And then from 8 to 9, I'm going to work on either a book I'm writing or a new program for a new company or something. And then I'm going to do my 9 to 5. And then at 5 o'clock, instead of maybe going home and just sit in front of the TV or whatever, I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to allot this amount of time for my new relationship. And then I'm going to go into whatever it is. That's my recreational, right?
Yeah.
So I'm running my time. Time's not running me. And it's really not time is running people. It's their habits.
Absolutely.
We are total habitual creatures.
Yes.
And our habits form, and
a habit forms that I don't get things done.
That's
and
right.
in their head, so they could change that.
Absolutely,
and shift that.
absolutely. And one thing is certain: time's going to go by either way.
Yeah,
it's going to go by either way, and so you might as well be stepping into some of the things that you want. One of the other things that I think is imperative is following our purpose. And it was really funny because I was thinking on the way here, because it's the Legacy series. What does legacy mean to me? And, really, what is it?
yes.
And it's when I live my purpose in my source, and I live my purpose out in the world. That is legacy. So when my purpose is initiated into action is when it becomes legacy. And in order to do that, there are certain things you have to dictate your life. You can create anything in your life that you want. Absolutely anything. And people are like, yeah, but I'm stuck in this job. Let me tell you something. It was so funny. I was talking about this the other day. I stuffed feather beds in a factory at one time when I was in college. Feather beds. Well, no, blankets.
Yes, it's like
with
beds.
this 200-pound machine of putting. And I think about the waitressing or the things that I did. And there was something that I learned from all of it. So I don't discount any of it. So everything that a person has been through applies to their life in one way or another. I did telemarketing, right? What did I learn when I was in the back room answering those phones at 19 years old? I learned how to deal with people. And so if you look back, there's something that you will have gained from every single thing that you've encountered and that you've gone through.
When people tell me I don't have a job, I don't know how to get a job, volunteer. Because
Yeah.
at least you're going to meet people, you're going to meet connections.
That's exactly
If
right.
you hide out, you're never going to get out
Yeah.
there and meet people. How are you going to get to the next step?
Yep.
The next step isn't
and
just
what
here.
industry do you want to be in?
Yes.
You know, not just what you desire, but also what you're good at. You
Yes.
know, where are you playing? Because you're not going to meet those people sitting on your couch.
No. And you're not going to meet those people if you show up and you're not your best, because everyone
Yes.
needs good people. So if you're good,
Yeah.
if you're just dedicated, and if you're on time, and if you're conscious,
Yeah.
you will get a job. I'll hire
Absolutely.
them right now.
Yeah, I know. So would I.
Hard. Yeah, it's so
I
hard
know.
to find really good people.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they just make that decision that they want to work in this field.
Yeah,
so-
and then, you know, one of the things is people hold back and they go, well, I'll look the part or I'll be the part when I get the part. No, you really want to be
it
the
reverse,
part,
yeah.
because when you be the part, you are it.
it's kind of like fake it till you make it.
And people see it and they spot it.
Yes.
And they go, oh yeah, and you're absolutely right about valuable people.
Yes.
And people that are passionate, people that have energy, people that are excited about getting in and doing whatever that is.
Yeah, and whatever it takes to do the bigger vision. They
Yeah.
don't care about, let me organize these papers because it's for the bigger vision of
It's
the
always,
orphanage or whatever
always
it is.
the bigger vision.
Yes, yes. And
You know,
I
and
don't want
that's,
to do this.
that's
I'm
one of the things,
you
like,
know, producer.
even with the Women of Global Change, there were times
Yes.
where there's been slumps and it goes up and down, you know, everything else. And you know what I would do? I'd go sit back and I'd watch those videos. You're in them, Mitch. I'd watch the videos of the kids and I'd watch the videos of what it does.
Yes.
And it would fire me back up. And I tell people that too. I go, if you feel like you're flat, because we're not all up all the time, we just burn out.
Of
you
course.
know? But if you notice you're starting to feel flat, even in my office, I'll crank the music up and I'll start dancing. And now my team is used to it. But when I first started doing it, they were like, she's at it again. You know, so what is it that fires you up? Is it
Yeah.
a certain type of music? Is it a piece of artwork? Is it something that you can have around you that feeds you? Because we're all different.
Absolutely.
We're
For
all
me, it's
different.
travel.
Yeah. And so it's
Go get
what is
inspired
it that
someplace,
feeds
yes.
you, you know, and inspires you to keep moving.
Absolutely. So when was a time you were in a slump, and then how did you get out of it? Kind of like what you're just saying, how you dance and whatever.
Yeah.
If there was a time where you thought, oh, I'm doing this thing, and then everything crashed, what did you do to get back on top? Can you give me one story?
Let's see.
If you were going for something and you thought it was going to work out and it didn't, then you were back at, you know,
Well,
in the
I can
gutter
think
and going,
I
"How
can
do
think
I
of a
get
bunch of
back out
those
this?"
stories, actually. In my lifetime, there's been plenty of times where it kind of crashed and burned, and I felt like the phoenix rising from
Yes,
the
yes.
ashes. There's definitely been several times, and I think, you know, I went through a lot with my daughter's father, a real lot, and it was a serious case of domestic violence. I had never dealt with domestic violence before. And I dealt with that with him, and I was broken up, bones were broken, and the whole thing. And it was really at a point where, like I said, I had never dealt with it before, and there was part of me that was starting to assimilate some of the things that were being told to me, where I started to think, well, is this me? And I really had to do a shift of self-love. And so I started just really being cognizant of, and especially as a woman, because we do for a lot of other people before that we do for ourselves usually. And so as a woman, I went, I'm really going to make time for myself. Like, I'm going to make sure I take, and this sounds so trivial, but it really made a difference, is I actually was like, I'm going to make my special bath time, and I'd put the music on, and I'd light the candles, and I'd be by myself. It's not like it,
right,
you know.
Right, but you're still like, I'm going to just chill.
I
It's
just
my
want, yeah,
time
it
to
was
meditate
my
or do
time.
whatever, yes.
I did a lot of journaling. I actually at one point wrote a lot about, well, wait a minute, who am I? And not really my weaknesses, but the strengths. And again, concentrating on what do we have going for us? Because we all have, you know, really, if you compare the two between, you know, what we're grateful for and what we're not grateful for, if you actually weighed it, you know, the grateful would always outweigh the ungrateful. And, you know, so I purposely started tying in, and that's when I started doing like my gratitude stuff in the morning. As I started waking up going, I feel blessed. I have another day to serve on the face of this planet. I feel blessed that I can create my own boundaries of how I perceive things, you know, and it just goes on from there. And so those are some of the things I did, you know, and I trusted. There is this thing of faith.
Yes.
And I think faith is one of the hardest questions that any of us sometimes face.
Yes.
And especially in those moments of, why is this happening? You know, I've had such great
me,
mentors.
again,
Yeah, I've
and
had
again.
such great mentors in my life, and, you know, was so lucky early on. And then to be faced with this whole thing of the domestic violence and just the
Yes.
whole thing, and then to find myself in this place where I'm questioning who I am.
And having a daughter.
And,
You know,
and
going, I don't
having
want
my
this to be her
daughter in this,
legacy.
that's
Yes.
exactly right. And that is, I was like, this is not going to be her legacy. And this is not, you know, what it's meant to be. Obviously, there were lessons learned. And see, even with that, I can look at it, and sometimes you can't look at it right away. Sometimes you can.
Right.
When you're like, why is this like this? And we all ask, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And then looking back, I went, wow. And I actually thanked him at some point because of the strength. I got to discover that I was even stronger than I ever knew I was.
And today you're probably doing a lot more because of that.
Absolutely.
Something, there's a fire in your belly saying, I'll never be taken advantage of like that.
Oh yeah,
and I
no,
won't let
it,
anyone.
it was, here's my
Yes,
boundaries.
yes.
I got boundaries.
Yes. And
there
what
are
do I
certain
want my
things.
life to be now? Yeah.
And then, you know, I look at my daughter, and she's adopted boundaries because I did. And so I think that as a parent, one of the things that I didn't fully realize, even though I was worried about her in the situation, of course,
Yes.
and her adopting part of the situation of what was okay or what wasn't okay. But the more whole I became, the more whole she became, which is very interesting to see
Yes.
now because she has her boundaries in place and she takes flack from no one. It's funny. But
Well, that's good.
absolutely.
Yeah, we like that.
absolutely, because many times it goes the other way.
Absolutely, especially when they're teenagers or 20-something. They
And then,
want to
yes, exactly.
you know, be accepted.
And
be
then
liked.
the other thing I did do is I was in the moment. And there were times I'm always in the moment, but I really had to let go of the regret of yesterday, the fear of tomorrow, and live in the moment and be present. And that was huge. That was huge. And especially, you know, I had gone through the custody case and you
Yes.
know, all the domestic violence and all that stuff, and it was just like, it was so easy to look back or try to worry about what was coming. And my saving grace, because anyone that's ever gone through like a custody case or anything like that, you lose your mind. It feels like you're gonna,
Yes.
like you're like, this is my kid, this is my, you know, are you kidding me? This is, it's just
So what
very
do you tell
unsettling.
someone like that? If
Well,
they lose their
you know what it is?
What?
Be in the moment. Don't give up your power. Because I found, and I wasn't always in the moment, there were
Yeah,
times
yeah.
in the beginning, I
very
was
hard.
giving up my power because I was reacting instead of just acting, right? So,
or responding.
yeah, exactly. Like I was on the defense instead of offense, and offense doesn't have to be aggressive.
Right.
Offense can just hold
Yes.
your place. And, you know, I started being in the moment because I started realizing that I was missing some of the moments. And my daughter finally said to me, she was little, she's like, Mom, come play with me. I don't even remember what she said. All I remember is she wanted me to have a tea party with her on the floor. and my head.
You're like, well, I have things
my head
to
is
do.
over
I'm trying
here
to save
from
you. I'm trying
behind,
to save
yeah,
us.
from behind and ahead and everywhere else. And I was like,
Oh my
okay, this
gosh.
is insane.
Yes.
What do I have? I have right now. That's all any of us have. We have no guarantee in our wallet that says I'm going to be here tomorrow. I have right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, you know what? I sat on the floor with her and I purposely paid attention to my mind. And it was very interesting to me because I was like, well, what about that paperwork that he just turned in? Well, what about this? Blah, 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 blah. What about this? And I was like, I've got to let all that go to be present in the moment. You know, and I deal with a lot of executives that do that. Or people that are trying to go into new companies or other things.
Yes.
And I tell them all the time, I go, you know, if you want to connect to source, because source, you don't hear the voice like that. You don't hear the subconscious,
Right.
okay?
Right.
You hear it, but it's not like kind of voice. And you're operating from a different place. And the connection to source is always in the moment. And so that was one of the things that I started to do, and I started to tell like a lot of the people that I work with, which is, what is it in nature that feeds you? Some people it's the ocean. Some people, me, it's the rainforest. I can just think about the rainforest and my shoulders drop. I'm like, and they're like, do you realize that's one of the most dangerous places in the world? No, I don't. I just get in there and it's the greenery. For some people it's animals, whatever it is. And sitting in that, either by the ocean or in a forest, or maybe you're in a park, I don't care, feed the squirrels, whatever it is, until this chatter stops and you're truly in the moment. When you're truly in the moment without the chatter is source. That's your source. That's your path.
Agree. I call it authentic soul.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know you do. And people,
Yes.
you feel it like physically in your body. All of a sudden you're like, all right.
Yes,
let's
whatever
go.
is coming at you, if you could just say stop, and what can I take from this, and just start from there.
Yep.
And changing your thought. I'm not going to react right now because I've been reacting, and look where it's gotten me.
Absolutely.
You know, so let's stop.
And what's the definition of insanity,
Yeah,
right? Doing the
same
same
thing
thing over and
over.
over, you know? And so, and it does, and it allows you to step outside it or back a little bit. To be able to see kind of that automatic response and that automatic how we operate.
Yes.
I think it's huge.
Oh, absolutely. And I noticed since I've met you, you always, regardless of where you are, you step into the world as if you are like the queen. Like, I am coming, Shellie Hunt has arrived. And it's like such a powerful statement. No one would ever know if you're depressed, if you're this or that. Maybe I would. I could, because I know you well.
Would know, and I would tell you.
Yes, and we sense it from each other.
I'd be like,
But
all
when
right, sister.
But you're not going to not speak in front of 300 people because you had a bad day or something happened, whatever it is. You're still going to dress up. You're going to be
That's
you.
that moment.
It's a professionalism,
That's
I
that
think.
source
Yes.
and moment. And that's that, you work with it all the
Yes.
time. It's that authentic thread
Yes.
that comes through us.
And then you could deal with anything that comes your way because you're still saying, I
Absolutely.
still have this. This is just stuff.
Absolutely. And that was the thing. I'm telling you, with the whole custody case and
Yes.
the DD and all that stuff, it was one of my biggest lessons, because I'd read this court paper, whatever it was, right? And I would carry it with me for like 2 days, like in my head, not with me,
Of
sometimes
course.
with me at first, but then it would be over and over
Yes.
and over. And it's like a loop.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's, what are the loops? What are you allowing to be the loops? And the more that you can be in the moment, and the more you can kind of step back and kind of look at it from a different place, the more peace of mind you have, the more fulfillment you have. And what's amazing is the more you get stuff done. The more focus, the
Absolutely.
more, you know.
If you can take that time to just develop yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, if you lose custody, you use it to build yourself and stay
Yeah.
stronger. And if you don't lose custody, you build
Yeah.
that as strength and help, you know, whatever it
Absolutely.
is, but try to make
Yeah.
amends somehow. When you make amends with whatever your issues are that is creating the situation over and over again,
Yes.
it's going to slowly dissolve.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you get to the point where you start realizing that you're not in control of everything.
Yes.
I think that's one of the biggest things.
It's
is
one of the
that
hardest
faith
things to
thing again.
Yes.
You know, that in the long run,
Yeah.
things unfold the way that they're meant to unfold, and that's okay.
Yes, and you don't believe everyone's Facebook page. I have people saying, "Oh, I
Oh
didn't even want
my
to call you
gosh.
because your Facebook page." I'm like, "Who believes everyone's Facebook page?
I
Nobody
know.
puts up."
You know, we're in such a change. More than I think I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Much more so. That's why I wanted to create this legacy series and have people like you come on to share what is your journey, what are your tools, because I know you coach people from all walks of life and top CEOs, and you've worked with Hillary Clinton, Condoleezza Rice. I mean, they don't get much bigger than that. So working with people like that, and I know from doing the Cairo cruise and Luxor, you're working with people who are just starting businesses and people who are doing well and they want to get to the next level.
Yeah.
So having you here to help people and let them know, you don't just become Shellie Hunt in one day. It was a process, and you started someplace.
No, you're absolutely right. It was a process.
Life wasn't just rolled out for you.
No, and one, some people know, but a lot of people don't know. I mean, literally growing up in Boston, Massachusetts, under a house, one pair of shoes at a time, which now I'm a total shoe fanatic, but I
know, I was noticing these.
I just, it's so funny. But it really, like I said, doesn't have to do with education, and it doesn't have to do with age, and it doesn't have to do with sex, and it doesn't have to do with finance. It does have to do with dreaming, and dreaming larger than life, and connecting to source. Connecting to source.
Dreaming larger than life. No one said that so far.
And living in your purpose. Because when you live in your purpose, I'm telling you, I got really clear on that on the way here.
But how do you find your purpose? A lot of people say, teach me how to have a passion. And I have no idea why I'm here. That's how disconnected.
A lot of times people can look, it's really funny because between the ages of like 6.5 to about 8.5, and then again in our early teen years, like our puberty years, we're shown what we're attracted to. Maybe it's music, maybe it's math, maybe it's science, maybe it's whatever the heck it is. But usually we're shown glimpses of our purpose in there. And then of course we get into school, and then we get into this whole, welcome to planet Earth 101.
Or parents who don't get
three-dimensional dysfunction kind of stuff too, because the world is kind of bombarding us, not just our inner environment, our outer world. And we get all these other paradigms. But usually if people look into those sections of their life, they will find things about themselves. And one of the other things is, people always go, I don't know what my purpose is. I beg to differ. And I always ask them, if you knew, what would the answer be? If you could do anything that your heart calls you to do, what would it be? And it's real funny because people might go children, or they might say animals, or they might say the planet, or they might say technology. It could be anything, right? And so I just want to make sure that there's a gamut of things. And you just tie that in and go, okay, this is what you're attracted to. Now how do you operate? What are you good at? Like, I am not the type of person that sits in the back room and puts numbers in little boxes. Could I do it? Yes. Would I wilt like a daisy in the field? Absolutely. I'd be like, oh, I can't do this, right? And so it's, where do you naturally fall? Are you kind of a visionary? Are you, like, that would be CEO, that would be marketing, that would be advertising, those are the creative outlets for that. Or are you an implementer? Are you better with, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and you're very analytical? Are you better in the back room filling in the numbers? Are you better looking at how does the Salesforce system run? Right? And so...
And there's starters and there's finishers. Are you
a finisher,
or do you start
That's
things
exactly
and you hand
right.
it off?
That is exactly right.
I want to do this, but I never finish. Well, then hire someone to finish, or bargain, or train.
Our educational systems are very interesting because we grow up and I'm told, or whoever's told, what are you going to be? Pick something. One thing. What are you going to be? Okay, I guess I'll be a nurse, fairy, whatever, right? Where's Ava, right? Where's the fairy, right? And so, okay, now you have to be able to encompass that entire job. Huh? Wait a minute. None of us are wonder people. None of us are super people. I believe we're put on the face of this planet to work together for a reason. and to work in unison
I
for
think
a
we're
reason.
fooled by the tabloids and stuff when we see people like Angelina Jolie. It's like, oh, look at everything she's doing. Well, she's got a team of 30 doing it all for her. She's not doing everything.
Yeah.
She's not at home with 6 kids every day,
Yeah.
plus, you know,
Yeah.
traveling, plus directing or acting or
And
going
all
out to
the other
social
stuff.
events.
Yeah.
And, yeah. She's not doing every single job all
Yep.
day long.
Exactly.
She doesn't have like a week for every day.
No,
She has
but
24 hours
those
a
are
day
the
too.
paradigms that are kind of,
Yes.
viewing on us.
And then you go, oh, I can't
that
do
we have to
anything.
look at. Yeah.
I have
And so
clients who
it's
come in there and say, I just can't do it. I don't have that energy to, withstand the
Yeah.
whole day of getting everything done. But nobody does.
yeah.
Everyone needs downtime.
And whatever purpose you have that
Yes.
calls you, there are other people that have that same purpose. And so you're not in it alone.
Yes.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I love the work that I get to
I
go
do
out there
too.
with
So
women
I'm like,
and
I'm
kids
going
and
to go
everything
with
else.
Women of Global
It's
Change.
the same thing.
You do all the work. You
But it's the
produce
same
it. I'll
thing.
show up. I will be there and do my
But
little
it's the
part.
same. It's the same thing,
Yes.
though. It's a higher calling purpose.
It
And
is.
so many times we think that we're alone.
Yeah.
And we're starting a new business or we're starting something new and we're like, wow, we're alone. We're never alone. There's always other people. And that's why tying into the other networks, once you kind of, I think everybody knows their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they all sat there and they wrote 5 pages in a
Yes.
journal, walked in a room by
Yes.
themselves in the back room, and we were like, you can't stop till you're done with 5 or 10 pages straight.
Or take one of our coaching workshops.
That's true,
Or come
too.
to a Women of Global Change,
Yeah.
or find a mentor or a coach, and
Yeah.
they'll work you through it within 3 hours. You'll
Absolutely.
come away with something at least.
Absolutely.
You'll get-
And that's one of the
get
things I do
ignited.
is I look at like what do people love
Yeah.
and what are they good at.
Yes.
And I go, here's a business, here's a
Yeah.
business, here's a business, here's a business. And they say, but how did you do that? And I go, because I'm not in your shoes. I'm off the playing field.
Yes.
And that's one
And
of
you
the
have
things
experience.
is,
Yes.
well, I've been
Yes.
doing it
Yes,
for
forever.
25
Yeah.
plus
Yeah.
years.
And your
I know.
mom was doing it, and you have
It's a
mentors,
legacy
and you have,
of,
So
Yeah.
very qualified, and if
Yeah.
they just find one person who's that qualified, even if they're not as qualified as you, just getting even a friend who could
Yes.
do it for them.
Well, and
But-
I think having mentors is
Yes,
imperative.
huge.
I think it's imperative. I mean, we see it, and people go after it in business. A lot of times, like I want to go understudy Jane because Jane's doing this and blah blah blah. But I don't think we do it for. Sometimes people do it for that. Sometimes they don't. But I think just overall, because we aren't, even though we have like-minded people that have maybe share the same vision of purpose, we're all individuals. We're not cookie-cutter souls.
Yes.
We are just as individual as our fingerprints, and we're all on a different calling
Yes.
at this point in time.